All right, Mr. Hill, thank you so much for joining us to talk to us today and talk to students about why you're running to mayor. So why don't we go ahead and get started with just that. Tell us why you decided to run for mayor.
Well, I grew up in Auburn and was educated at Auburn High School and Auburn University, or served as president of the student body. I decided to go to graduate school after my time here at Florida State and got a PhD in government. And I moved to Kansas State and then to Texas A&M University, where I spent most of my academic career. And kind of got to love and know those college towns like our college town. I went into consulting after that and lived in a suburb of Houston for a number of years. And it was growing very, very fast. And my wife and I decided to come back to our hometown. My wife's so Auburn, she was born in the Auburn Infirmary, the student health center. They didn't have a hospital in those days. So we moved back 9 years ago, and I immediately began to see things that trouble me in terms of this lack of openness and transparency in our city government, kind of just a headlong rush into any willy-nilly runaway growth and development, some of which to me was not advisable. And I didn't see anybody standing sort of up to the insider establishment that sort of seems behind all this. And so I thought, why not me? I don't have anything to lose. I don't have any stake in a business in Auburn, or the only property I own is the home I live in. Mm-hmm. So I can speak freely about these issues and offer voters an alternative, and that's why I've chosen to run.
Mm-hmm. When you say you worry about openness and transparency, what do you mean by that? Because I think a lot of people, they see these developments coming in and people are worried about what connections some people may have to that. What do you mean when you say you want an open and transparent city government?
What it would look like would be where we're more fulsome in what we share with the public. Mm-hmm. Just a basic is like putting our city council meetings online, mm-hmm. Streaming. We also have we had an agreement years ago with the principal cable provider here to have a public access channel, and that's not been used for this purpose, but it could be done again. So I think letting people see what's going on, I think our planning and zoning meetings should be online. Mm-hmm. And then those streams should be posted for anyone to view at their leisure. Transcripts should be posted of them. So making the basic information available. Mm-hmm. Another troubling thing that I've seen is it's so often when you ask for some basic information, like let's say you ask for all communications between city officials and a particular developer, or all communications regarding a development project, they'll always sort of say that requires an open records request. To me, City Hall is the people's hall, mm-hmm. and we shouldn't make it so hard for people to get basic information. We might charge them so much per copy, or just some sort of ordinary government in the sunshine type requirement. But we just, what I've seen is there's a lack of just basic friendly cooperation, saying, sure, I'll get those documents for you.
Mm-hmm. So, I've been here for 4 years now, been to quite a number of city council meetings, more than I could count. And one thing that continues to come up over time is the issue of development, particularly in the downtown area and particularly related to student development. And I think a lot of things that people tend to have worries about transparency come out of those bigger developments. So tell me what your philosophy is on those developments and how you think the city government should handle them.
Well, let's start with a basic, and this is important right now because there's an update report coming out. We did a Danter report. A consulting firm out of Columbus, Ohio, did a study for the city about the housing market, all multifamily, but including student purpose housing. And it clearly said in 2015 that we were almost overbuilt and probably almost likely would be overbuilt. But yet in the summer of 2015, while they were stonewalling a moratorium, they approved at least two huge projects, 191 College and the Standard. Then we got a moratorium after those had slipped through. Right now, today, last Friday, the city manager got a final copy of an updated Danter report. And the word that I've been given is they're talking about not releasing that until after the election. I hope that's not true. I've asked the city manager to give me a copy. This is very important information that voters should have. If it's on the city manager's desk, that information should be shared with the public because it might be important in making their decision of who to vote for the ward seats as well as for mayor. So openness and transparency, have we overbuilt? I'm also concerned about the planning aspect of this. I think we're cramming too many students into too small an area. If you take the individual buildings, even as ugly as they are, if they were set back further, if they were maybe located not all just on Gay, Glen, and North College, it might work. I'm still concerned that we might even then be overbuilt. But to me, we're not really doing a very good job of sort of site development for where these are being located. I would have much preferred many of these be between College and Donahue, in some of the areas where there's some older post-World War II type housing that might be repurposed for some of the newer housing. And those would even be closer to campus for students. And that's sort of a low area that might be more suitable for it. So those are two critical considerations. I think the other thing I would say is, one thing I'd hoped was to get more of a chance to talk to students during this runoff, and there really haven't been any events that were conducive to that. But with the students that I do get a chance to talk to, I really don't think the kind of luxury, high-rise student housing that's being built there is that appealing to most students. It may be,
it's expensive.
It's expensive. It might be appealing to some freshmen and maybe a few sophomores. There may be people from, affluent areas in Atlanta or Florida or wherever they might sort of want that. And that's fine for them. But I think, again, the overbuilt question. I live right downtown here. I live Thatch, just a couple of blocks from campus. And anytime any old house or duplex or something comes up around me, it's rented immediately. I think that's kind of what students want. I'm even much more approving of some of those 3-story houses that have been built on Sanford as sort of little cottages. To me, those are more conducive to what we think of as Auburn as a small town, loveliest village of the plains, than these giant, big box, undistinguished architectural totems.
I do want to talk about specifics, though, because some of the, you mentioned the standard. There was a lot of things that went into that. I mean, there was a lawsuit, and the developer, said that, they had a right basically to be there, and then there was a settlement, and that's why they're there. And with a lot of these, some of the other ones, 191 College, they were put in, before the moratorium, or approved before the moratorium or before the new plan. What do you think the city can do? I mean, these are already going up, and there's no stopping them now. But going forward, what do you think the city can do that could somehow preserve economic growth and property rights, but also kind of control some of these bigger developments?
Couple of things. One is it was important that you mentioned by right developments, BY right. Some people have never heard of this. What it is, a handful of towns in Alabama have this, not all. And what it says is, if you own a piece of property and you're going to build a building and it doesn't specifically violate any development standards or criteria like the height limit or the setback limits, then by right you can build there. And this is what the person the standard was invoking. There's two answers. That one is try to change the by right ordinance and give, particularly for the downtown major developments, give the city more control over these. Most cities want more control of their biggest projects. I have no trouble with by right development like residential neighborhoods or small commercial properties, because usually the standards there are very limited, 35-foot setback from the back property line, 15 feet maybe from the side, or whatever those are. Those don't give me a problem. But on the bigger projects that are going to be so important long term, I would like to see that policy changed, where we would have more design review and control over those. The second thing is kind of taking a more proactive approach to development, going out and finding developers that want to work with you, and trying to work with them to help them identify property that's in a more suitable location. So kind of, it's, I sort of say the mayor of Auburn is not a strong mayor, as a political scientist defines. It's a weak mayor. It's really just one vote on the city council. But a mayor can have an enormous power to persuade. So going out and finding the right kinds of developers that want to work cooperatively with the city, that share our vision where we want Auburn to be, somewhere down the road in the future, and then trying to kind of nudge them into first place on development of these new projects. So both changing an ordinance, the by right development, and also doing a more proactive job of trying to get the right kind of developers in here that share our values.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that you mention, how politically the mayor is not very strong. Most of the administrative powers with the city manager and the city council. I do want to bring this up because I've had some people ask me about it. Your campaign put out a video that called some of these developments dog butt ugly, I think was the phrase that was used. And I wanted to ask you what exactly you meant by that. Did you mean the buildings that are going up, or did you mean the downtown? Because I think
I would
there
say
were
I meant the
questions.
buildings.
Okay.
And the development. And it was an attempt, which I'll say in retrospect, maybe a lame attempt, but it was presented as a movie trailer about downtown
Very
development.
dramatic.
And it was, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. We're saying these even make 161 Ross look good. It was clearly done in a humorous vein. But what I discovered was some people in Auburn don't have a sense of humor. And I think some people really didn't want to look at all that. I run into a lot of people that say, I'm so frustrated with all that. I don't even go downtown anymore. The traffic, the parking, it just looks ugly. And sort of this was making people ponder what we're doing, seeing, and some people have tried to say, oh, well, it's just because we're under construction. It's going to look way better when it's done. I'm just telling you, that's lipstick on a pig. These are going to look looming and ugly in terms of their design for a long time to come. So it was trying to make people sort of think about this issue using humor to do it. Obviously, it had mixed results.
You talk about having these relationships because that's basically all the power that the mayor has is the influence of the role, because you're not really that much different than any other city council member. Do you think that you can go to developers and develop relationships with them in a way that they may, be more willing to cooperate with some kind of design review committee, or be more willing to, appease the tastes of Auburn per se?
Yes, I do. I do a lot of work with developers for them to try to get them to help them work with neighborhoods. I worked on projects as simple as people are upset you're building a grocery store behind their neighborhood, and there's going to be trucks loading and unloading through the night, and there's noise. So it's sitting down with neighbors and trying to figure out how can we ameliorate the problems. Is it a sound wall? Is it vegetation, a berm? What do we do to work on that? It can't always be worked out, and I've even worked on huge projects to build massive shopping type centers and working through all the issues in the town. And I've seen developers that genuinely have a cooperative spirit. They don't want to go into a community and force themselves down the throat of the community if they don't want it. That's not good business. And so, I think there are. Now, is that everyone going to be that way? There are these big student REITs, American campus communities, and a couple of that fueled by Wall Street. The campus market has been a very strong real estate market. And, they've got quarterly reports to make, and they're going to jam through whatever they can jam through. Some of these, though, they're not really community members. For instance, Evolve has already been sold within a couple of months. And that's what these are. They come in here and they're going to be a flipper and sell to somebody else. It'll be a bundle of student housing or whatever. I would be trying to attract people that want to be long-term partners with the city and work with us in the long run.
Let's turn the tables a little bit and talk about the campaign. There's about only a few days left. The election's on October 9th. Ron Anders has a pretty big financial advantage over you. He has more than $20,000 in his account. Are you worried at all that you don't have nearly that much? Do you think that you can catch up with him another way that's not?
Well, it's intimidating, but money's not everything. And I think the fellow who cuts my hair told me the day of the last election when we did a haircut. And he says, David, a lot of people don't really know you. And that was true at that time. But I can tell you this, that it's begun to change. I'll have people just walk up to me in places, are you David Hill? I know you. I've seen your picture. So I think I've kind of closed the gap somewhat in terms of name recognition. And once you do that, you have people spend more time like we're doing as many mailings as Ron is. We'll be doing some radio at the end, probably not as much as he'll do. But I think when we get to the finish line, people will have a sense of what the two candidates offer, except that Ron's completely changed his platform here in the last couple of days. But I think they'll mostly have an idea of sort of what we're offering. And, it depends really just on turnout then. Who's most motivated to turn out?
Mm-hmm. So let's end on a note that's more related here to students. How would you get students involved in the city process? I
think one of the key things is just make yourself available. I know one of our city council members, Ward 5, Linda Tremaine, has really set a standard that's impressed me of just once a month. She has a town hall meeting at, I think it's usually at the small St. Dunstan's Episcopal Church downtown. And she usually has one city official with her, at different, one time it's planning, one time it might be parks and so forth. And it gives people a chance to come and just talk. Mm-hmm. And so I would think that, we could try to do the same kind of thing here. Just have a town hall meeting once a month or every 2 months. And just make yourself present, try to get people on city staff that are handling areas that might be important to students and have a discussion. And frankly, if 5 people show up on time, well, that's not exciting, but like maybe it might grow over time. So I think just being present to listen. One other thing I think that needs to be done is, again, we're in 2018. Digital communications are so important, even in the business you're in. More people are reading, online than they're reading paper anymore. And so one thing I'm very keen on, and I've worked with other cities and counties on the school districts on this kind of thing, is having a much better app, having a better website that's more accessible, provides more information, to be that portal to watch the city council meetings. Well, I could even have a tab in an app that would be student information and try to learn from just, opening an opportunity. There's a new app now called Next Door. It's kind of a Facebook cousin. And, some people first thought it was just for finding lost dogs and cats. But in this mayor's race, it's been a very interesting thing. Like I just posted something, what one change would you like to see made in your neighborhood? Well, I would like to see, maybe post something like that for students on something they have ready access to. And say, what would be one change you'd like to make about life in Auburn today as a resident as well as a student? And just sort of look at the responses.
All right. Well, we will have to leave it right there, but I do appreciate you talking with us and talking to students and getting your platform out there. So thank you so much.
Enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.